Hello, and welcome back to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and today we're once again tackling the text tool. We're looking specifically at the document options for text. So let me just zoom in here really quick, and I'm going to go into the document options, and it's the item down here called text. And this is the pane that we want to be in for this. And there's a bunch of different options, so let's talk about what they are. The first thing at the top, use 4 spaces in place of 1 tab character. You can actually use tab spaces when you type text, and in fact I have done that in the second text block here. Text blocks tab with tabs, 2 tabs in them, right? That's exactly how I typed that. Now Finale is replacing those tabs with the equivalent of 4 spaces because that's how this is set. You can change this to whatever you want, so if you want it a little bit wider, make it 5, and you'll see that it will actually change retroactively, which is unusual in Finale because most text items do not change retroactively. If you change fonts in a lot of cases, it won't change the existing items in the score. This is an instance where it will. So you can change that number to whatever you want to get those tabs smaller or larger. Easy as that. The next section is called Text Insert Symbols, and just so you can remember what this is, let me go into these text blocks here, and you'll see that I've got a bunch of sharps and flats, naturals, and double sharps. Now these were all done with the text inserts. You can tell that because it's got this little weird little box around the sharps here, and to get to those inserts, we know we go into the Inserts menu in the Text menu, and it's these first 5 things: sharp, flat, natural, double sharp, double flat. Now those items are controlled in the document options, and there's a bunch of different options for dealing with these accidental inserts. So for each item, sharp, flat, natural, double sharp, and double flat, we get a pull-down menu, and every time we choose a different one, these settings become different, and so we can change these individually. So for the sharp, you have the option, or for all of them, you have the option of selecting the font, the symbol from the font set, and you can see that obviously the sharp is selected there. You can also choose the font, and in this case it's going to choose the default music font for you at the beginning, and in this case it's Maestro. One interesting thing is that you can change the style, but what you cannot do is actually change the size of it. You'll see that the size box is completely grayed out. The reason for this is that these text inserts work in a unique way where the size of them are relative to the size of the surrounding font that you're using. So in other words, you know, this sharp text right here is 12-point font, I believe. Is that what I set it up? Yeah, 12-point font. But if I select the whole thing and choose size 18, what you'll see is that the text will enlarge, but also the sharp will, the sharps themselves will enlarge. So the font sizes for these accidental inserts are actually relative. They're not set. So that's why you're not even given the option of changing the size. In fact, it'll say 24, and this is just referencing the fact that, you know, off the bat, the way that this is set up is that these accidental font sizes are going to be twice as large as the text font sizes. So, you know, 12-point font is going to give you 24, 14 is going to give you 28, etc. Where we do control the size of these is here, and you'll see that it's given as a percentage, not as a point size. So this is what's allowing you to actually change the font size of the sharp or flat relative to the font size that you're using in the text. So we could do something like 125% font size for the sharp, and you'll see that just the sharps will get larger relative to the size of the font. If I undo that, you'll see that go back to the way it was. So it's a little unique in this regard. This is how the size is dealt with. It's dealt with proportionally using this font size percentage. And again, these are all individual per the character. So if I decided, you know what, the sharp looks okay, but I think the flat's a little small, you could go into the flat symbol here and change the percentage to 115 if you want, and that will allow you just to increase the size of the flat while leaving the size of the sharp alone. There's also the baseline shift here. Now this is actually important when you're dealing with these accidentals because this will allow the characters to sort of center the way that they're supposed to. I talked about this a little bit in a previous video, that the baselines for music characters in Finale is unique so that they fit well on the staff. Well, when you're dealing with text blocks like this, these baselines need to be shifted. And again, this is also done as a percentage because this is going to be relative to the font size that you're using. That's why it's not set. And you'll see that, you know, the way that Finale sets these up automatically is that these baseline shifts are slightly different between certain characters. The flats are actually set at 19%, whereas the other ones are set to 34%. It just kind of has to do with, you know, where the center point is and what looks best. And if I show you, actually, let me go into this text block here where I have them all. You can kind of see, you know, what this means along the baseline. These little rectangular indicators here is showing you kind of exactly what the baseline shifts are, you know, relative to each other. Also, the heights are different, you know, so it's important to know how these baseline shifts control where they're viewed relative to the rest of the text. Let's go back here. And then we have tracking before and after, and this is tracking is the horizontal space between the character, either before the character or after the character. And so if you look at these text blocks that I have set up where I have, you know, accidental, a word, and then an accidental, the tracking after would be the amount of space between the end of the first flat and the beginning of the first letter. The tracking before would be the amount of space before the last accidental but after the last letter. So these trackings can be adjusted as well. If you think that, let's say, the flat that starts this text block is too close, what we could do is change the tracking after. And now this is measured in EMs. And an EM is 1/1000th of a relative point size. So again, this is actually sort of a percentage. It's sort of set up differently. A single EM, again, is 1/1000th. So if I were to put in 1,000 EMs here, then it would give me basically a 12-point distance horizontally between the accidental and the last letter. So if I do that, you'll see that's how that works. So again, if you decide that you don't like the horizontal spacing, you can futz with this number, futz with these numbers a little bit, and you can see that they're set a little bit differently for each character. The natural is 50, the double sharp is 40, the double flat is 60 for the tracking before. So they're all set just ever so slightly differently. And speaking of that, if you decide that for some reason you prefer to have one setting for all of them, which I kind of don't recommend because, again, the way that these fonts are built, that's probably not going to work so well. But you could decide to just choose the one for the natural and press apply settings to all symbols. And that will take the 100, 34, and 50 and apply it to the flat, to the sharp, so that now all of these numbers are exactly equal between all of them. This button over here, Reset All Symbols, will do just that, and it will take all of those settings that you had set, and it will reset to the factory defaults that Finale has decided works for these insert symbols. Now, one thing to realize, there is some usefulness with these text inserts beyond using them as accidentals. We don't have to use a double sharp character. In fact, I don't know what are the chances that you're going to actually use a double sharp in the middle of a text like this. Probably fairly slim. So we can absolutely repurpose these inserts to do something else. And in fact, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to take this double sharp text insert symbol and I'm going to change it. I don't want the double sharp. You know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use an eighth note. So I'm going to go up here and find my eighth note character and select that. And now I've just changed the double sharp to use an eighth note instead. Now you see, when you do stuff like this, you will have to adjust things like the baseline shift, possibly the font size, depending if you want to. In this case, the baseline shift doesn't need to be anything, so I'll just set that to 0, and you'll see that kind of go in line there. I can add a little bit of tracking after, maybe. Let's try 50, give it a little bit more space. Maybe the tracking before, actually, you know, let's make this 100. Let's make this one a little bit higher too. Let's make this 125. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so now you can see that you can use this double sharp insert as an eighth note instead of a double sharp. Now this is actually kind of really handy because what you can do now is type something like straight. And then instead of trying to figure out like, okay, I'm going to type an E, I'm going to highlight this, I'm going to change it to Maestro font, I'm going to find the eighth note character, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do that. You can just use the insert for the double sharp because now the double sharp is defined as an eighth note and then per single quote S. So now you can just very quickly type straight eighths in this manner. So this is actually a really nifty way to kind of repurpose some of those accidental inserts that you're probably not going to use. You're probably not going to use double sharp, double flat. You may never use the natural one either. So you can repurpose these for anything you want. I was thinking about an interesting way to maybe do this if you're doing some educational worksheets and you had these questions where you wanted the rhythms in line. What you could do is, set your sharp to, let's say, 16th note, flat to 8th note, natural to quarter note, double sharp to half note, and double flat to whole note. And then very easily you can have musical samples, and the questions in text could be something like, how many quarter notes are in this following rhythm, musical example, how many eighth notes are in this following rhythm. And this would be so much easier using these inserts, so long as you just remember, the sharp is a 16th, the flat is an eighth note, the natural is a quarter note, etc. So, you can get a little bit creative, doing things with these text inserts for the symbols. And you don't even have to use the Maestro font. You could set to a different font. It could be some like Wingdings font or something. If you wanted, a special type of arrow to use as an insert, you could totally do that as well. So, the sky's the limit if you have some imagination using these text inserts. I'm just going to go ahead and reset all symbols for now. And now we have straight double sharps, which doesn't make any sense, but that's okay. Get rid of that. And then there's a couple other options down there that I wanted to show you at the bottom related to the seconds in the timestamp and the date format. So including seconds and timestamp will do just that. However, this is one of those things that will not change anything retroactively. So you hit apply and nothing happens until you actually, this is a timestamp insert, by the way, you can see that, until you actually go in here and reinsert it. So I can do this again, time. And it will reinsert it with the seconds there. So again, that particular option is not retroactive, nor is the date format. So you can see I have a date insert here, and I could change my date format to here and hit apply, and nothing will happen to this current date, but I could always insert a new one to get that new format. So those two options for the date and time are not retroactive, but this will allow you to use those inserts with these formats instead. You just have to redo them after you set these. All right. So yeah, so I think that's it for the document options. There's a few things going on there. I really like the idea of kind of hijacking the accidental inserts for certain things. I think that's a really useful thing to do at times. So that's a nifty little trick. Other than that, yeah, that's all there is to it. I thought this might be the last video, but I realized there's one other thing I want to cover, which is the text search and replace function in the edit menu here. So I'm going to do one more video about that, which is a really useful tool that will allow you to replace words with other words, and it will even allow you to replace entire swaths of fonts, one for another. So that's really helpful, and I'm going to do a video on that next, and that should be the last one in this category. All right, so once again, thanks for watching. My name is Jason. This has been Tackling the Text Tool, and yeah, I will see you soon on the next video.